Hello and welcome to one of our supplementary spin programs where we call them impromptu conversations. And today I'm going to be talking to Daniel Saunders, who is a minister, and we're going to be talking about worship during the time of COVID-19. I'm doing it all myself today because Carl's having a rare day off. So there's going to be me looking at buttons and looking around and all that sort of thing. G'day, Daniel. How are you, mate?
I'm doing really well, Rod. It's great to be here with you.
Thanks for joining us. We're all in isolation. I don't have a carer, so you can see I'm not much of an ironer, but it doesn't really matter, I guess.
No, look, I think the camera does. You could always do one of those touch-up things on the camera anyway, can't you, after this? And
I don't think I'm that clever.
All the wrinkles go.
You'd need a Hollywood studio and visual effects to make me look good, trust me. Anyway, you're in Gympie, correct? Or Maryborough, where are you?
Yeah, no, I'm in Gympie. So
Gympie?
I live in Gympie, been here for 4 years. And at the moment, feeling the weather, we've had the cool change. I think you guys had where you guys are as well, up in Hervey Bay. And so it's a little bit nippy here this evening, yeah.
It's getting cold. One of the first places I applied for a job was 4GY, which is a Gympie radio station. But anyway.
Oh, right. They're on the highway. Yeah.
I don't know where they are. I never got the job. So there you go.
Oh, right. They're just on the, well, they've got something on the highway. I've noticed the buildings. So
sounds about right. Now, listen, we're here today. First of all, before we start, I'd just like to tell people, even though you're a minister in the Presbyterian Church, the views that I'm asking you for are your views. You're not actually speaking for the Presbyterian Church.
Not on behalf of the denomination or anything like that, no. No one's giving me that kind of authority.
I just want to make that clear, so if we do anything slightly off the centre of the line, we're not going to get you into trouble because it's an impromptu conversation. We haven't really talked about what we're going to say. But the thing is, with COVID-19, a lot of churches, including your own area, have had to move towards, if not live streaming, at least streaming via YouTube, correct?
Yeah, that's very common. Almost most churches I'm speaking to at the moment have gone that kind of thing for what they do on Sundays and also midweek activities as well. And
is it more than ever? I'm sure there hasn't been this degree of online activity before.
No, I think having churches having a website or a Facebook page where they would occasionally post something, using a bit of email, that's probably as technological as we've got for most congregations. I mean, there's been some churches who've experimented with live streaming in the past, but this is huge growth. I mean, you've heard about the kind of growth that some of the live streaming services have had. I think churches are part of that.
I think Zoom is now a multi-billion-dollar company, I'd say, after.
That's right.
It's ridiculous.
10 times the number of users than they had a few weeks ago. So
exactly.
And now, churches are part of that, yes.
I've looked at some of the figures because I've been slightly involved in helping a church with doing their streaming. And that's probably because, not that I'm particularly religious, but that I feel in a time like COVID-19, people need whatever comfort they can get, and if that comfort comes from God, which is where you would say it should come from, then we need to facilitate ways in which to make that happen. But my question is, are you surprised by the amount of views you're getting online?
Yeah, so our church has made an interesting decision that because of the technology we're using for Sundays, is that we've actually kept things fairly in-house because we're using Zoom, and there's this really interesting merge between the public world and the private world. But I know other churches I'm speaking with, they are finding people are tuning in and connecting to live streams or live meetings in a way they haven't before. Of course, on the internet, it's hard to know whether someone's sticking with you for the whole time. People can walk in and out of the device they're connected to, but people are finding that lots of people are connecting who haven't normally. In our particular circumstance, we haven't opened the floodgates, as you will, but we do have connected with a few people who are more distant from us and have a connection with our church family, and we've been able to connect with them again, which has been really exciting.
That's good. Now, and it brings me to some questions. I've just realised I had a special fancy screen made up for us and I haven't put it on a button, so I can't use it. But anyway, that's what happens when you do things on your own. The point is, you're right about not knowing how long people stick with things, but I feel that if people want to go to church and they tune into a church service, they're more than likely going to stick with it because they're tuning in for a very specific purpose.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been really interesting. I think some ministers have been learning a lot from kind of the TV world, and that's fair enough because that is one of the main screens we consume, or even now the YouTube world, and realizing that people watch very short videos on Facebook and YouTube. But on the other hand, church has a relational aspect to it always, and so people are tuning in. They're not tuning in to watch the nightly news or the latest Netflix blockbuster. They're tuning in to connect with the community, and so I think people are willing. I've been really surprised the number of churches that are putting together a video that's an hour and a half long, and I think people who are part of that community, they're going to still sit and join in and participate in that longer form of broadcast or live stream.
It's no longer than going to church.
That's right, because that's what they're used to. It's the time they've dedicated, but it's connecting with people they know, even if it's through the chat on the side of the screen, if it's with YouTube or whether it's Zoom, there's a little bit more interactivity. Yeah.
Right. So if we look at it, I've had comments like, wow, we're getting maybe 100 views and there may be more than one person per view, and that's perhaps even more people than we get regularly at church. Now, I've been thinking about it. Yeah, go on, continue.
Yep. No, you keep going. Yep.
Well, because I work in the field of disability, and I know a lot of very proud elderly people that would never consider that they're disabled, and in fact they're not. But what they are is mobility impaired, which is kind of a form of disability, okay? And I find that a lot of people, as they get older, it's quite an effort to get up and go to church and be on time and do things. And my theory is that perhaps you're getting more people because they can do it. They don't, if they're having a bad day, they don't miss out on church. They don't have to get in the car. They don't have to be there by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. They can do it after breakfast. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think that's actually happening in our community. There's a lady who's part of our community who has some pretty serious chronic health issues and is in chronic pain. She lives a fair way out of town from Gympie, and so coming into town is a big hassle for her, and often just doesn't happen. If she is in pain, there's no way she's going to do that. And so even before COVID-19, we had a very simple live streaming thing set up, just an iPhone on a tripod, sending out a live stream through Facebook to a closed Facebook group, and I helped her to be able to connect in with that for her. So it was an option. So sometimes she really wanted to come in and join in and see her family and have that physical connection. But on those weeks where it couldn't happen, she would use the technology that was there and connect that way. It was so she was still connected in a lesser way, but still possible. And I'm sure there are many other people for whom that's the case, where all sorts of reasons. It may be because of mobility issues. Could also just be because they're a shift worker, and so
or they're ill.
Or they're ill. Yeah. So I've had people at our church when it's they've had a knee replacement or a hip replacement. They're stuck in bed for 6 weeks. They're not driving a car for that long. So similarly, they've taken advantage of that really simple live streaming thing we've done for the last 12 to 18 months. And so now, one of the really nice things for them, and I'm thinking of that lady who was unwell, there's also another family who were disconnected to us due to distance. They're kind of on an equal footing with everyone else, as long as their internet connection is as good as everyone else's internet connection.
Well, I'm all about inclusivity, so...
That's right. So the new exclusivity is those people whose internet isn't as good. That's, everyone's included equally based on their internet access rather than physical abilities.
Unfortunately, I don't even think God can fix the internet in our area at the moment.
Oh, we're pretty lucky here in Gympie. I'm pretty impressed with how well we're going. Though, if you're on mobile, it's pretty
difficult and can be quite costly.
Yep. That's right. I'm regularly Sunday morning prayer does include prayers for technology at the moment.
I'm very pleased. Can you see, I believe, it's my opinion, that churches shouldn't go all the way back. I think they should continue on with the technology after COVID-19. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I think this is a great learning curve, a bit like some of the things that the federal government was saying. You know, we've implemented in 2 weeks things that have been on the cards for 10 years, and now we've just had to do it. I think it's the same in churches. For some, I'm part of a denomination that is Australia-wide and then statewide, and even the region that I'm part of is a very large region. We spend a lot of time in cars, burning a lot of fuel, getting on planes to go to meetings. So that's at a kind of a meeting level. I think we've finally implemented a whole lot of things that many ministers have wished. Why couldn't we just do this particular meeting as a teleconference? Well, we're now doing it, and so that'll happen. I think the same with churches. One of the things as Christians is we believe that the body is really important. We're not just brains that can plug into the ether. We are people. The Lord Jesus has a physical body, and so we don't want to lose that. But at the same time, one of the great kindnesses of God is that we do have all this technology we can take advantage of. So as I said, one of the things our church started doing about a year ago was a very low-tech live stream. We didn't put it out publicly on the internet because, frankly, it was a bit embarrassing. Because it wasn't
God can't be embarrassing.
The quality of the production is, it's just an iPhone on a tripod. But we weren't trying to compete with the world of broadcasting. We were trying to connect with individuals and families that we knew. And so it was brilliant because they were connecting with people that they know in a way that they couldn't because of mobility or illness or distance. So one was a family who's moved into a remote area. There's no other churches around. And so they've continued to connect with our church that way. And I think we'll continue to see some of that. One of the other things I think we've seen is some of our smaller things that we do midweek, discussion groups.
Well, you've invited me to one. You've got me in to do one to see how
to see how it goes. And I think we've found that's really exciting because for some people, maybe, as you've mentioned, as people get older, heading out at night is a bit intimidating. Their eyesight's not as good. They're a bit intimidated fearful about going out at night. But then
it's cold.
They're sitting at home, they're watching TV, it's cold. They're very happy to flick on connect into a Zoom meeting or a Facebook Messenger meeting or whatever the technology is, and be involved in a Bible study or a prayer meeting. And so I've been really encouraged. One of the things I've been encouraged by is we're talking about accessibility to all people. Some of the oldest people in my church who are not in an aged care facility I showed up at their place. I thought I was going to teach them how to use their telephone to call in and just listen into church because the system we use has that ability. And I thought, I think I can teach them to dial a phone number, dial a 10-digit code and connect in. No, they showed them up. They've got their laptop and their smartphone and they're tethering.
Fantastic.
This was brilliant. And there was the necessity being the mother of invention. They would never want to learn how to do that in normal circumstances. But they do now, and it's an option for when something happens to them physically, and they're no longer able to drive to join on a Sunday.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about the cost.
Yeah.
And I'll state again that I've got some fairly strong views on this, and these are your own views that I'm asking for. Just tell me if you think I'm wrong. The cost of perhaps putting in a live streaming system at a church could be reasonably expensive. It might cost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 or something like that. So, but the way I look at it is these people have been loyal to the church for years and years, and they've been putting money into their offering most weekends, even if they do it because someone's watching. I'm just kidding. But they've been putting money in and supporting the church for years, and surely this is a really grassroots way that the church can continue to support them as they get older. And I think churches should be really considering an automated live streaming system. My thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's something that churches should be looking into. I think one of the really challenging things with accessibility is accessibility costs money, and churches, particularly. Look, I'll say the joke. We're Presbyterians. Presbyterians has a Scottish heritage, and Scottish, they're cheap.
Where's that moth?
I'm not
Where's
Scottish.
the moths?
Yeah, that's right. And so, but on the flip side, it goes back to what I was saying about our theology. The Lord Jesus was someone who welcomed and included all sorts of people. He took on the cost of coming and taking on human form, going down to the cross, obedience to death on the cross, and rising again to life to save people. He bore that cost out of love. And as Christians, I think we are to follow that example of doing costly things out of love. And so, it's a bit of a head stretch for some people, particularly people who are unfamiliar with the technology. I have the benefit, I studied technology at university, and so this transition to online at times has been, a distraction of getting so many toys. It's been so much fun, but for other ministers, it's not, and for many people in our churches, it's not. But I think for me as a minister and other leaders, it's about selling that vision of what does it take to love people. So it might mean we've got to spend the big bucks and upgrade. So we've got a ramp so people can get up into our church building. It could be, hey, we can spend $50 a month to get decent NBN and another $50 a month to get the right streaming licenses and this and that.
Well, people can watch it if they're in an elderly care. They don't lose the connectivity. And look, I personally believe, and this is my serious personal opinion, the church, as I understand the principles of Jesus Christ, is that the church has I can't think of the right word, it's more than an obligation. It's the core thing is that they have to love and care and share with their members. And if they're not doing it, I feel that they're taking the money and then not doing what they should be doing. Now, I don't need you to comment on that, but that's what I think.
Yeah, look, and I think, and there's a variety of ways we can be doing that. I think that, so one of the things I've done in the past for people who've not been able to connect, so I regularly record the sermons at church, put them up on the internet. But hang on, good. This person, there's no way they're downloading an audio file. So what can I do? I can go to what is old technology for me, grab out the CD burner,
put it on the CD,
a couple of CDs, and then go and visit the person, leave a stack of CDs, have a cup of tea with them, and that kind of thing. For some of them, and I think it's one of those things, isn't it? For those guys in their 90s, maybe the technology of getting an iPad and watching streams beyond them. But for the people in their 80s or their 70s, that's not beyond them. In fact, they're used to that.
Live streaming means you're there with people. You're not watching it afterwards, you're there with them.
No.
Now, I do have a question. When someone's in an aged person's home or whatever, is there a way they can take communion?
Yeah, so I did that actually just before COVID-19 was the first time we did this. There's an aged care facility in Gympie, and there's now 2 members of our church who are residents there, and another bloke who's connected to our church. I've never actually met him yet. And so we ran a very small communion service there. So for that I was there, those couple of residents were there. Actually, a random bloke walked in. He's a bit of a character, and we had a great time with him as well. So he was included.
But that's evangelism. That's spreading the word of God.
Yes, you betcha. Yeah, and then a couple of folk from our church. So we made it an invite to our church. Hey, anyone who's free, come along, because it's not just about the sacrament, the means of grace and the word of God. It's also about the people of God. And so we had that open invite, and a couple of people who were able, it was a midweek thing, so if you were working or whatever, you couldn't be there. But a couple of people came and were there with these people. And so we kind of had a mini church, and we shared in the Lord's Supper, and we prayed together, and we read the Bible together. And that was really precious, particularly, those particular people. For the person who is more mentally competent, she was really touched by that. And I'm really looking forward that when I've had my flu vaccine and I'm allowed back into aged care facilities, that we'll do that again sometime soon.
If the churches were to embrace the live streaming thing, I would imagine it wouldn't be that difficult to... I'm not sure. Look, I'm not an expert. I know it's supposed to be 1 loaf and 1 cup and all that stuff. I don't know how you do it, but I would imagine there'd be a way of them getting their sacrament before the service and being able to take it at least at the same time as everybody else did. And that would be lovely.
Yeah, look, it would be. you have hit on one of the many hot button issues amongst ministers and theologians and Christians who are thinking about these things.
What's the hot
the
button?
last 3 or 4 weeks. Oh, the hot button is, can we do the Lord's Supper in a distributed manner? And different ministers have come to a different conclusion. Our denomination changed its mind officially last week sometime. So I noticed the first of the Presbyterian churches in Queensland doing an online version of the Lord's Supper. I'm not thoroughly convinced it's the right step to go. I think I'd prefer that in-person thing.
I'm sure it's more important. I'm sure it's the way it's meant to be. But I also look at the... this could be completely wrong. But where, for example, many of the things that were put into place, which are very important as an observance of the Lord, like the Sabbath day. And the Sabbath day became so locked down in rigidity that even Jesus said to them, look, Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And for me, it's a little bit the same as I see it. And trust me, I don't go to church, but it's a little bit the same with the sacrament. At least it would be better to have people joining together as a family and remembering the sacrifice that is represented there.
Yeah, look, it's a pretty nuanced debate, and I think it'll be really interesting because of the many. There's probably only a few topics that are kind of come to the fore at this time for churches. That'll be one I think as we'll keep discussing because there's the immediate kind of emergency situation we're in at the moment. We've got to think through that, but then I think you're right. Got to keep thinking through what's the longer term plan and goal as we come out of that. I mean, I remember when I was a child, I don't know which denomination used to run that TV show, Mass for You at Home. So there's a long tradition, at least in one of the Christian denominations, in providing that kind of service for people. And I think... Well,
I went to one in America. I don't know, can you remember the Crystal Palace with Robert Schuller?
I've heard of him, yes.
And I went to that just to experience it. And it was fantastic. And that was a very televised one. He told a great story about being in Las Vegas, and they called his name. They said, "Would the Reverend Robert Schuller please come to the front desk?" And he thought, "Oh, what am I going to do now?" He said, "I was just there for a meeting," but he said, Vegas. So what he did, he said, "I went up to the front desk and I had Billy Graham and a whole bunch of other people paged." He said they weren't there, but it made it seem like it was a convention.
Brilliant. He's obviously a smart cookie.
He was very clever and he was open about it. He was just having some fun. Just two more things. The first thing is churches now are really struggling to get young people. So embracing technology, to me, is a very smart thing to do, even if, because then maybe you could do some specific young people things, but even if they're in the lounge room with their grandma and grandpa or mum and dad, and they're hearing it up here, they're listening, even if they don't want to, it's still sowing the seed, if you want to use the biblical thing there. So there's another reason to embrace it as far as I'm concerned. So that's where I'm at anyway.
Yeah, I mean, kids love their screen time. My children have this they'll watch almost anything if it's on a screen.
Even church.
Even church. Well, it's a bit weird at the moment because church happens kind of broadcast from the living room, and they've just got to see Dad speaking into his webcam for 20 minutes. But they do love that. I mean, there's been some really interesting things for children to come out in this time. There's a Christian children's presenter. He was on Play School back in the day, a guy called Colin Buchanan. He's doing a live stream every Wednesday afternoon from his home, doing songs and funny stories and puppet shows. He's brilliant. There's also another organisation, KidsWorks. They've been providing kind of kids materials to run in church every Sunday. They've got a classic, their puppet, Nudge is Colin's page. It's a dog for QuizWorks. It's been brilliant. So lots of different ministries have pivoted really well online. There's some great kids stuff that's out there already online. There's a the group that makes the YouVersion Bible app. They've got a Bible app for kids, which is just brilliant, interactive. It's not as dorky as the kind of Bible computer games that were around when I was a kid, which you played for about half a second, then going, oh, this is terrible. They're much better quality. And I think so many Christian ministries are really thinking hard about online space, because that's part of the space people live in. You know, there's a workspace they live in, there's the physical place they live and the kind of the neighborhood, there's the place they play, so that might be their, you know, the clubs they go to, the pub they go to, the sporting team they're part of. But there's also this online world where people play. And I think Christians are thinking hard about, well, how do we connect with people there, tell people about the good news of Jesus there? So whether that's producing snippet videos that look good on YouTube, or whether it's you know, doing interactive things on Zoom or all sorts of things. So there's lots of people thinking and working hard in that area. I think on the flip side, though, as much as young people love technology and they use it all the time, I think there's a sense where what they crave is person to person.
Oh,
and
absolutely. I do. I've had too much.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone sent me a text last week, and they said, this is a joke because we weren't able to go anywhere last week, but it said, you know, look, I'm having a party next Friday at 7:30. Please bring your phones, you know, because the basis was they're all going to go and just text each other because nobody was actually talking to each other. I forget the phraseology, but it was really quite clever. Yes. I messed that up because I've forgotten the wording. Doesn't matter. Look, before I go, I must say that I do love technology. I'm not making this stance because I'm going to make any money out of it. I don't do church things. I do things for disability. And what I'm doing at the moment for churches, I'm doing because I believe people need the comfort that they, in this time, and it's important. And also, a friend of mine, Natalie, I want to do it for her as well because she's been a wonderful person. But so that's, I just want to say that. But I do think it's a way that people should go. Now, I notice you've got two guitars in the background. Are you a singer?
I sing. I don't know whether I call myself a singer, but one of the things I've become in the last 4 weeks is a recording artist. So although we're doing a lot of our church gathering on Sunday live, I found that doing live music with the technology just wasn't working, and so I've started pre-recording myself. You know, I lay down a couple of tracks, a few other people from church lay down some tracks. We haven't quite got to that virtual choir thing. I don't know if you've seen some of those things online. Hey,
I'm not sure how they're doing it.
Man alive.
Very good.
Oh, it's astounding. But,
so you did mention live, and this is kind of like a church service, so we can't possibly not have some music. So I think you need to get one of those guitars and sing us one of your favourite songs.
Okay. I've just, you know, oh heck, I'm pulling out some music right now.
No, I want it live on the.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a song.
And folks, I didn't warn Daniel about this.
That's okay. I'm just going to try and find a bit of sheet music because I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'll find something that's. We might have to.
You'll be right. It's all good.
I'll do this. I'll do this one.
All right.
Now I don't know how the sound's going to be coming through.
Doesn't matter. It can't be any worse than it is usually in a church. I'm sorry.
That's probably very true.
No, there's some lovely music in the church. I'm just having fun. But and after this is over, I will finish the program. But wait for me because I'll come back and chat to you. Okay?
Sounds good.
What's the song called?
Oh, this song is called "My Heart Is Filled with Thankfulness." It was written by Keith Getty and his mate Stuart Townend. My heart is filled with thankfulness to him who bore my pain, who plumbed the depths of my disgrace and gave me life again, who crushed my curse of sinfulness and clothed me with his light, and wrote his law of righteousness with power upon my heart. My heart is filled with thankfulness to him who walks beside, who floods my weaknesses with strength and causes fears to fly, whose every promise is enough for every step I take, sustaining me with arms of love and crowning me with grace. My heart is filled with thankfulness to him who reigns above, whose wisdom is my perfect peace, whose every thought is love. For every day I have on earth is given by the King. So I will give my life, my all, to love and follow him. To love and follow him.
Thank you very much.
You're very kind, Rod.
Well, Daniel, it's been wonderful having you along, just hanging there for a while. But I appreciate you doing it on very short notice, and hopefully we can. I will come. What day am I? What have I committed myself to? I can't believe it. What day am I coming?
You've committed to joining us on Tuesday evening for a course that's called Life Explored. It came out of England. A few blokes did this over in England. There's some videos and some Bible reading. We're going to have a bit of a chat about what the best gift is God could give you. That's our first question we're going to be thinking about together.
Well, I promise I don't talk as much in a meeting as I have tonight. So, just
That's okay.
folks, that was, I've got to find all the right buttons here. That was Daniel Saunders, and we've been talking about worship during COVID-19 and after, and all the accessibility facts and the inclusive factors and all that sort of thing. Remember that it's just a supplemental program, but we've really enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on The Spin.